morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And welcome to another fine Wednesday morning here in the city of Philadelphia. Welcome to another coffee break chat. I'm your host, James Jackson, he, they pronouns, executive producer, Late Thief Productions. We've got a short one for you today. Our guest wasn't available last minute. So we're gonna talk about today's topics, and we'll just do a little brief rundown of what's been going on this week. If you're not from Philadelphia, your phone probably hasn't been blowing up every 12 hours or so with some sort of update about how the water will be safe to drink until maybe 3:30, maybe midnight, maybe less than that. I do like how the water department decided to notify us that it would be 11:59 in the evening, so that there was no confusion about whether it was midnight or noon that the safe drinking water notice was expiring. But that's all over with. If you haven't been in the know, a spill of chemicals used most commonly in latex paint. Um, uh, they help emulsify the latex and then also help it dry and be shiny. There was a spill of approximately 10,000 gallons. Some reports say 5,000, some reports say 8,000, some reports say as much as 100,000. So who knows actually how many gallons? But there was a large spill. Even 5,000 gallons is a lot of these chemicals into the Delaware River. Well, really a creek that's a tributary to the Delaware River. The chemicals are considered toxic, not safe to drink, but they are water soluble. So that means that they break down in water and oxidize and become inert. They, like I said, are in latex paint, which is, non-toxic as far as you can touch it. You could even drink it a little bit accidentally and not die. It's, of course, not good to drink, so don't go out there doing that. But you could, and it wouldn't be that big of a problem. So the Philadelphia Water Department, in quote unquote an abundance of caution, um, decided to notify everyone that this spill happened, and that it could possibly affect the quality of your drinking water. Um, that's good. I think. I think that's wonderful. I think it's great that the city decided that it was important to notify the people that drink its water of this possible problem, and let them know, hey, you could be exposed to this chemical. There's no evidence that you are exposed to this chemical at this point, but here's what happened, and here's what we've done to try and make sure that you're safe. Um, I don't know. I think that's responsible. I think that's good. I think it's important to do that sort of thing. And the city did. This effort was led by the assistant managing director for the city of Philadelphia. That's not the managing director, which is the kind of action arm of the mayor's office. That's the assistant to the managing director, who was not involved in the entirety of this effort, nor was the mayor himself until the end of the problem. I find that interesting. I don't know. Maybe it'll come up later, sometime. But at least somebody was on the ball. Somebody said, "Oh, hey, there's been this chemical spill. Maybe we should let people know that the water is safe to drink for right now, and that it might, have problems later." Um, so the city spent the weekend notifying all Philadelphia residents. However it could. I got reverse 911 calls to my business line, that were, it is quite fascinating, actually. I've never seen reverse 911 used. Um, and notifying us that, that the water might not be safe to drink, or that it was safe to drink, but we didn't know past a certain point in the future. Um, and perhaps it's a wording problem. Perhaps it's a how do you present this in the most ethical way possible problem. Um, it caused a little bit of a panic. Um, People instantly went out and cleared grocery store and convenience store shelves of bottled water, in any format that they could get it. Um, and I don't know. That kind of is a predictable reaction. When you say that there isn't any evidence of contamination yet, but the water might not be safe to drink in a few hours. Um, the first notice we all got was like at 11:30 ish on Sunday afternoon, and then that notice that the water was safe to drink expired at 2 p.m. That day. So yeah, not a lot of lead time. Probably should have been investigating, had a better idea of how long that the water would be safe to drink, and or um, saved the information for a time when you could release it for a longer time in the future, because I knew the water was safe to drink until 2 p.m. Um, I don't know. I don't know how you solve this. It's good that the city notified us. It's good that people had the choice to react or not react. Um, it's not great that people went out and started hoarding water instantly. But then again, I speak from a place of somewhat privilege here. I've been had our household off of tap water for drinking and cooking for nearly 6 years now. Um, I've just never liked the taste of tap water in Philadelphia, so we have, a water dispenser. It's economical. It's uh, eco-friendly. I don't spend a lot of water resources drinking from that, and the bottles are fully reused every time we're done with them. So you know, it is what it is. It doesn't cost any more than tap water. It costs the same amount, unless now they're out because everybody went and bought water. I don't know. We've had it for a long time. Should everybody have bottled water available to them? Sure. Everybody should have bottled water available to them, probably for free. But then we get into the ideas of is there something that we need to do to earn our rights to life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness? I don't think so. The quote today, "No longer accepting the things I cannot change, changing the things I cannot accept," is a very, very mildly modified version of the full quote, which is Angela Davis's, "I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I am changing the things I cannot accept." Angela Davis, for those who don't know, part of the Black empowerment movement, second wave feminism, very well known woman in the activist and Black Power movements. She's currently 79 years old, and she has been uh, everything from honored by the former Soviet Union to a university professor at University of California. She's been a longtime member of the Communist Party of the United States of America, and she was a founding member of the Committees of Correspondence for Democracy and Socialism. She writes on class, gender, race, and the U.S. prison system, and is a founding thinker in modern anti-imprisonment movements. Um, when we talk about folks like Angela Davis, we talk about people who have been fighting for decades. She was born in 1944 at the end of the Second World War, and has participated heavily in the Black Power movement, the Black Empowerment movements, and the Black Emancipation movements of the 1960s. And folks like Angela Davis have been fighting for literal decades, longer than I've been alive, longer than most of you have been alive, to correct, to edit, to change, to make better the world in which we live. Um, it's fascinating to me then that we still have things like the incident. Let's see, this was March 10th, 2023. This was published. Um, uh, Sheldon Thomas, a 35-year-old black man, had his conviction vacated after 19 years. So he was he was convicted in 2004 of a murder. That's 20 years ago. Well, 19 years ago, and he's now 35. That means he was convicted when he was 15 of a murder. And he maintained his innocence the entire time and kept seeking an overturn of his conviction. And the conviction was finally overturned recently, vacated, not just overturned, by the City of New York, Brooklyn's crime review unit, because it was not a valid conviction. It wasn't even a valid arrest. The arrest was a result of the New York Police Department pulling a photo from a different Sheldon Thomas, who had a long criminal history, and showing that to the victim, and the victim identifying his assailant, their assailant, or so not victim. This is a murder conviction. Identified, showed the picture to an eyewitness, and the eyewitness identified the assailant from that photo. But that photo wasn't of the man that they arrested. They arrested Sheldon Thomas, who was not the Sheldon Thomas in the photo. The trial was allowed to go on because the judge said basically, we all look alike, meaning black men. We all look alike. You can look up the photo online. I don't find any resemblance between the photo and um, the man who is on screen. Let me see if I can pull up this image for you. At any rate, as I do this, um, the man who's on screen is, you know, in the photo is clearly not the same man that they were arresting. Um, Obviously, the cops didn't care. Um, it is what it is. They arrested him. There's all these steps to a trial. All these moments um, when this could have been avoided. All these times when the man who was arrested and convicted for a murder could have his innocence uh, indicated to the court, and all these times when this trial just should have stopped. This prosecution should have just stopped. As you can see here on the screen, there's one man on the left and another man on the right. It's pretty clear that the man on the left isn't the man on the right. I mean, he's got a different jawline. He's got a different brow line. He's got a different nose. He's got different lips and mouth characteristics. He's a different person. Even a computer wouldn't be confused as to whether or not this was a different person. At any rate, um, eh, and so he languished for 20 years in jail, waiting for somebody to understand that he was innocent of the charges against him. Um, how do you fix that system? Um, Angela Davis has been fighting, since the '60s, to do the same thing. And the quote, I'm no longer, I'm fixing the things that I can no longer accept." She's been trying to fix the things that she can no longer accept. Um, for that long. Lots of other people have been trying to fix these things that are unacceptable for a long time. Um, how do we fix them? How do we get to the point where they are fixed, rather than constantly paying lip service to it? Um, I don't know. I don't know. These are the things that confuse me about the current campaigns for people to take office right now. Um, there is obviously a problem with folks like Governor Youngkin. Um, um, Youngkin was sold um, as a moderate. Um, he was sold as someone um, who can appeal to all voters. But instead of appealing to all voters, recently the Virginia governor uh, revived the lifetime ban on voting for convicted felons in the state of Virginia, and ended the automatic restoration of voting rights, um, and replaced it with a system where the governor himself is the one who decides whether or not you get your voting rights back at the end of your prison sentence. There's a lot here. There's a lot to analyze, to dissect, about voting rights for felons. But I think if you take the high level view, you get the understanding um, of exactly what someone has the opportunity to do um, with policies like this. So if you take it from a high level overview, of course we've been over the fact that black folks in America are prosecuted um, more frequently and receive harsher sentences for the same crimes committed by other ethnic groups. Black people are also more policed, so have a higher incidence of being prosecuted for crimes that are committed, even if crimes are committed in the same percentages. So like there's a confirmation bias here. Obviously, if you send police to a certain district, they're going to see crimes. If they see crimes, they're going to prosecute people for those crimes. If you over police a district and it is predominantly black, and under police other districts which are predominantly white, you're going to get more quote unquote criminal activity in the black neighborhoods. You don't actually have more criminal activity in the black neighborhoods. It's about the same. When you do sociological studies of people by survey, like get the idea of whether they have a proclivity for crime or not. Every sociological study has proven that no ethnic group has a corner on crime. No ethnic group has a corner on any specific type of crime. And it's interesting that no ethnic group has any sort of corner on crime because all ethnic groups have, different social structures, so they might view crime a little bit differently. What's funny is that, here in the United States, we live under kind of this melting pot ethic. So we have one definition of crime that's supposed to fit every social structure. But there you go. We don't really follow what is socially acceptable. We just define crime in some sort of quote unquote universal way. At any rate, if you look into say drug use is in the same percentage in white populations as it is in black populations. The predominant driver or percentage change of population of drug use is by economic situation. Those that are better educated are less likely to use drugs. Those that are better off financially are less likely to use drugs. Those that have a stable living situation are less likely to use drugs, etc. So providing those things is actually a solution to drug crime, providing a social safety net, providing the ability for people to interact with their community and be a positive contribution to society, lowers drug crime. It lowers the incidence of people taking and abusing drugs for recreational purposes. So why aren't we doing that? Well, you have folks like Governor Youngkin, who is a quote unquote moderate. Moderate in that he wants to restore Jim Crow. He wants to take us back to 1902 when you locked black men up and imprisoned them and charged them with felonies so that they were no longer available to their communities, and so that you could drain those resources from the black community. Resources in wealth, education, in manpower, simple manpower. And this is where the quote unquote moderate people are in 2023 in the United States in the Republican Party. He's not a moderate is the underlying thing here. If you think he's a moderate, I got news for you. He's not. He's not a moderate. He's just somebody who wears a vest like mine. And so he's supposed to be an everyman. He wears a vest and a blue button-up shirt, and that's enough for neolibs to say he's a moderate. He's not a moderate. Stop saying he's a moderate. Stop saying DeSantis is a moderate. He's not a moderate. He's not even a valid candidate for the presidency. Please stop. Just please stop aggrandizing these people who are not. They're not even making valid political points. Um, don't play into this. Don't give these people the idea that they have some sort of anything. They don't. They're not worth your time. They're not worth anything. Um, anyway, that's my moderate rant. I'm sure I'm speaking to the choir. If you have any thoughts on moderate candidates or actual moderate positions in politics today, feel free to hop on here with me or comment in the chat. I'm interested in what people think moderates are, but I don't think that you can sell Youngkin or you can sell DeSantis as a moderate. Um, Another group that you can't sell as moderates, but that actually don't seem to try and even claim that title, is Moms for Liberty. Moms for Liberty is really a wholly owned subsidiary of some of the well-financed political action groups that are intent on restoring kind of a white nationalist hegemony of the United States. For lack of, there's no way to actually even hedge that. That is what they're doing. That's what they want to do. That's been their goal since day one. And day one, by the way, was probably 30 or 40 years ago. Day one was before I was in the school system. Day one was back in the 1960s when desegregation happened, and folks started looking for ways to continue to segregate schools legally. Um, Day one was a long time ago. And so now we have things like charter schools and private schools and school voucher programs and all kinds of other things. How did we get here? How did we get to Moms for Liberty asking Bucks County and Penridge and Council Rock and CBSD, Central Bucks School District, to ban books? How did we get here? How did we get to um, the place where we're fighting in eastern Pennsylvania, kind of a very liberal area, if you know it, where we're fighting against the infiltration of our school board system by people who don't want to educate our students. They don't. They look. I don't understand how we even got to the point where we don't acknowledge the fact that the goals of these groups have been laid bare from day one, which was so long ago, and there's that we don't even acknowledge that there's this direct lineage of these groups. Um, that the only goal here is not quote unquote the safety of children or the passing along of some value system that they claim to have. The only goal is racism. The only goal is the division of people by race so that they can give a leg up to their children who they claim are white. How did we get here? How did we get to the spot where and I have an answer. Of course I do. Of course I have an answer. We got here um because of the 80s. We got here because of the 80s because in the 80s there were some folks who believed in white nationalism, who saw the writing on the wall and who said, okay, hey, like this isn't playing well. You've got basically a revolution in South Africa, and we don't, actually want to have our houses burned. How do we maintain our wealth and power and sell it to the general public without having our houses burned down? And the way they did that was they said, "Hey, all you folks that work in these strenuous jobs for barely more um, than minimum wage, all you folks who work in factories, you're the ones that the country relies on. All the folks that work on farms, all the folks that work in fields, all the folks that um, make stuff available. You're the stars." Um, but unlike the communist vision of the stars, where the stars have the power, we're gonna keep the power for you, and we're gonna dole it out as we see fit. That's how we got here. Somebody sold us a bill of goods. Somebody said, "Hey, this is a great idea. This is a great country. Let's make sure it stays this way because this is how we make ourselves more powerful." Um. Anyway, that's how we got here. How do we get out of here? Search me sometimes. I don't know. I don't necessarily know. I know that Ashely Biden, uh, President Joe Biden's daughter, um, is one of the people who's trying. She wants to open a wellness center for women impacted by trauma in Philadelphia, and trauma informed wellness center is a really great idea. On the face of it, I don't know the details of it. It's kind of an idea in the making, anyway, and we'll have to see how it pans out. But obviously addressing the traumatic circumstances that women face every day, uh, and creating a center where folks can deal with their situation while handling the grief and the trouble caused by trauma. It's obviously a great idea. We need to do that for the whole city, though. We need to do that not just for a select group of women who've fallen on hard times. We need a trauma informed government. We need a trauma informed uh, policing force, not police force. We need to approach our social situation with the information that all of these folks have experienced trauma. Me inclusive, you inclusive. Everyone experiences trauma at some point in their lives, and trauma truly guides what people do. Trauma informs and creates the greater part of how we react and interact on a daily basis, more so than even any sort of upbringing or education possibly could. It's the difference between your thinking through a problem to resolve it and your initial reaction. And a lot of people are stuck in this loop of initial reaction after initial reaction. When you can't get past the point where you're reacting to something that happened to you that was traumatic, in order to get to the spot where you're actually thinking about how to get out of the situation you're now in, that's when things go wrong. I've been taking flight lessons. Any pilot will tell you that there are a lot of things in your flight training that are specifically designed to break you out of a trauma cycle. It's not exactly worded that way, but it's to break you out of the reactionary cycle. Um, there are a lot of things in flying that are sailing too, driving even to a certain extent, but not as well done. That's why we have road rage all the time. But all of these things where it's dangerous to do them, things that are very difficult and dangerous and require a lot of attention and thought. Um, there are a lot of things in the training for flying that break you out of a cycle of reacting, because when you experience something that suddenly provides trauma to you, in flying, that could be your engine suddenly stalling out, a wind gust hitting you in an unexpected way at a bad time. You have an initial reaction. You can train that reaction a lot, but you at the end of that initial reaction, if you're focused on the thing that happened still, you won't get past your trained counteraction, your trained initial reaction. So your trained initial reaction would be to feather the prop and make sure that you're on the correct guide slope, check your altitude, and issue a Mayday announcement on the radio. All of those things, sure, you could do by rote. If you do them over and over and over again in training, that's the first thing that you're going to do when your engine quits. Okay, but what next? You're not on the ground yet. What's the next thing that you do? What's the next place that you concentrate your resources? Where do you go from there? And that's where every system that requires you to handle something at a moment's notice trains you to break out of that traumatic cycle. Another traumatic thing is about to happen. You're either about to hit the ground, or you're about to find out that some other system is breaking down or something like that. Another traumatic thing is about to happen. You need to break out of the reaction cycle, analyze what you've just experienced, and move forward from there, to get yourself safely to where you're going. I, we need to do that for everyone. We need to have these trauma informed responses built into society, rather um, than systemic responses that just make things worse. The systemic response to violent crime. A systemic response to violent crime currently is to increase enforcement, have more cops on the street, have those cops arrest more people, have those people convicted for longer and longer sentences, etc. Is that valuable? Does that do anything? I would say that if you ask any criminologist expert, and lots of people have, I think the resounding answer is no. It doesn't do anything. Uh, we're we as a country, the United States has more of its population imprisoned than any other country in the entire world. I think, if I recall correctly, we have more of our population imprisoned than the next three countries that have a prison population. Um, Yet, we have the most violent crime. We have the most property crime. Um, we probably also have the most quote unquote white collar crime, or crimes of um, fiduciary crimes and confidence crimes. Um, I don't know those figures off the top of my head, but there's more opportunity for crime here. So uh, how do we solve that? How do we get to a spot where we're not the world's leaders in violent crime? How do we get to a spot where the city of Philadelphia isn't leading the nation in violent crime, in gun crime? Um, uh, Recently, this is published yesterday. A Mastery Simon Gratz High School 10th grader was shot and killed while heading towards school Tuesday morning, so day before yesterday. Um, uh, he was just heading to school and was shot and killed during a fight with other young people. Um, a bunch of teenagers. This one was 15 years old. We're having an argument. They're high schoolers. They have arguments. He was having an argument with his friends and ended up one of his friends pulled out a gun and shot him in the chest. Where do we go from there? Um, uh, why were some teens in ski masks trying to attack these teenagers going to school? Um, Gary Whedon, the boy's father, possibly said it best. It's a bunch of cowards out here. In my era, I was born in the 60s. If you fought somebody, he beat you. It wasn't about no beating. It was about respect when you fight. When we lost, we shook hands. You drank beer, you smoked weed, and you all go play basketball. Now you fight a dude, he wants to come back with 50 clips and put them all in you, and half the time they hit the wrong people. Um, I want to ask all three of them dudes, why did you kill my son? Why? Because he was embarrassed, because he was by himself and he dropped you and your boy. Y'all ain't had no other way to get him. So, clearly, um, a distraught father, probably knowing the situation better than anybody else, knows of a fight, and knows that his son was able to handle himself, and some some other folks decided that wasn't good enough to let him live. Um, a little bit later in the interview, he said, "Guns are the problem." It's just pitiful that you put these people in office and they don't do shit, but let something happen to one of their kids. Oh, we're going to pass this bill. We're going to pass this bill. He also placed the blame on the parents. You got these parents out here getting high, running around, making their parents responsible for your children's. Make the parents responsible for your children's actions. Let's do that. Let's pass a bill. If your son go out there and kills that man, you're going to jail. I'll bet you things change. They let their kids run out here 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock at night. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's not a trauma informed response. It's just a response. You cast around for blame. You look for an answer. Uh, at some point, you get off the merry-go-round. You think you found the answer. Um, I doubt you have. How do we inform that trauma? How do we grow from these incidents? How do we make changes and get people and get our society where it needs to be? Um, I don't necessarily have an answer. I hope some of you do. Maybe we can all work on this together. It'd be great. Um, Looping back around to the top of the show. Um, well, first, children's safety. Um, you have these groups that are out here trying to ban people from doing things like taking care of themselves mentally, trying to dictate how they can and cannot appear in public, um, trying to tell people that they need to live by some code or ethic or moral that is unique to themselves. And or is subject to some system that was set down long ago. And you have people out here trying to just live their lives. And I gotta say, telling people that they can't seek medical attention for what they see as a physical disfigurement, telling people that they can't enjoy themselves by going to a show with a man dressed as a woman, or vice versa. Telling accusing people of crimes when all they're doing is literally just enjoying themselves in a way that you don't accept. That's not protecting children. Uh, Turning off the history of the country, ignoring the fact that the black community has had its resources stripped from it repeatedly and in an ongoing way since being stolen from Africa. Um, Trying to teach your children that they are in some way exceptional or better than or different than or more powerful than everybody else with no basis in reality. That's not protecting the children. Uh, Trying to shield your children from the realities that are out here, realities that they will encounter. They will. They'll be out in the street at some point, even if it's not before they're 18. At some point, your children will encounter people different than them. And trying to shield them from those things, trying to act like they don't exist. That's not protecting the children. Perhaps if you want to protect the children, Let's talk about the gun violence problem in the United States. Let's talk about the stripping of regulations from the EPA, and the defanging of every regulatory system that the United States has. Let's talk about the environment that they're going to inherit, the global environment, and the damage that we do to it regularly. The spill at the Bristol plant is not the first spill that particular plant has had. Um, and it's also not the only time that that area has produced toxicity in the Delaware River. That area has been a complex for industrial manufacturing for many decades, really since the turn of the 20th century. And um, the it's happened many times in the last several years. There's been something like 5 spills in the last 10 years. It's not good. Why is this plant still operating? Why can't they stop spilling toxic waste into the Delaware River? Why isn't the Delaware a primary contact waterway? That's protecting children. That's protecting the children. That's finding out the answers to these questions, finding out the solutions, figuring out um, how we change society so that the society that we come into in the next decade, in the next 2 decades, in the next century is a literal better place for the children to inherit, for them to grow and live and thrive in. Um, that's all I got for you today, guys. I'm no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I'm changing the things I cannot accept. Hopefully, some of you folks go out there and change the things that you cannot accept. I highly encourage you to do so. Um, these problems have solutions, and one day we'll get to them. Maybe that day is today. Uh, Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. I'm going to get out of here. If you like what you see, please hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell on whatever outlet you're looking at us on. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitch, and we're on Twitter. All of which will notify you if we go live, and we do go live regularly. And next Wednesday, we will have Colby Calhoun with a very good dance theater talking about the piece The Other Gardeners. So tune in again next week, folks, and enjoy the rest of your week.